Guillaume, thank you so much for giving your time to PlayStationer.net. Just, I suppose, as a good way of introducing things, could you maybe give us a few words about the game for people who maybe don't know that much about it?
So Beyond Two Souls tells the story of Jodie Holmes through 15 years of her life between the age of 8 and 23. So you're going to follow the story, the good and the bad moments of the life of Jodie Holmes, but also of Aiden, an entity that is around her, that has been with Jodie since she's very young. Jodie doesn't really know if it's a ghost or the soul of someone who passed away. The only thing she knows is that this entity has been with her since she was born. And as the player, you're going to play both as Jodie and as Aiden. And so the game offers two different gameplay elements. As when you play as Jodie as a human character, and Aiden as an entity that freely floats around and can interact with other characters and objects in a very unique way.
Sure, thank you. One of the things that was interesting from your presentation is you mentioned that you wanted to create a new game engine for this game. A lot of people thought that Heavy Rain was one of the best looking PS3 games. What drove you to create something new and try to improve on that again?
We wanted to create with Beyond a relatively unique experience, unique compared to other games, but also compared to Heavy Rain. From a graphical standpoint, we wanted to better integrate characters into the sets, work with also larger environments. In Heavy Rain, most of the time, you are the story takes place in small environments. In the story that David Cage wrote for Beyond Two Souls, most of the time you're in very large environments, and that required a new graphical engine. We also decided to work with performance capture and to have Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe contribute to the experience in the lead roles. And here again, we wanted a higher degree of graphical fidelity. And so we worked very hard to create a new engine that would enable us to obtain this higher graphical fidelity.
Sure. You mentioned in your introduction that Jodie, the character, evolves from the age of 8 until 23. There are obvious challenges with creating a character that both evolves and stays the same. Can you maybe speak a little bit about that and what you found most difficult during the production?
The difficulty in crafting a character that you're going to follow for 15 years is, I would say the biggest challenge is the consistency, to keep the consistency in not only the look, but in the evolution of the graphical representation of the character, but also in the performance. So just to give you one idea, there are 48 different Jodie Holmes in the game. So it's and each one needs to show an evolution, and each one needs to be consistent with, the 48th one needs to be consistent with the first one. This also poses a challenge to the actors. We had two actresses play Jodie Holmes, actually. Carolyn Wolfson, who plays Jodie Holmes when she's 8 years old, and Ellen Page, who plays Jodie Holmes when she's a teenager and then an adult. And here again, especially for Ellen Page, it has been a huge challenge to create a consistent experience and to play Jodie when she's 14 and then when she's 17 and then when she's 23. So there are huge challenges in creating such a compelling story over such a long time.
Obviously, the story goes between two playable characters, then Jodie and Aiden. And the experience with Jodie is then punctuated with the use of Aiden. Was it ever a concern that bringing in Aiden or going to Aiden would ever break the fluidity or the, I suppose, involvement of the gamer in that way?
Yes, in the game you can actually pretty much all the time switch between the two characters, and we've asked ourselves the same question on Heavy Rain. Is it disturbing to switch between 4 different characters and to follow a story from 4 different angles? The response is no. And here again on Beyond, it's fascinating, but it's not disturbing at all. And players, we saw it in user tests, very naturally. You tell them, okay, you press triangle, you can switch. Okay, they switch. And quite naturally, you go from one to the other, you make both collaborate, and the story unfolds naturally without you even thinking about the incongruity of the concept of it. So it works.
Brilliant. I suppose one other aspect of your presentation surrounded the idea of themes, and this links into creating something that is interesting for maybe an older or more mature audience. While there are themes like death and mourning and running through this game, are there learnings for people? Are there messages that the game tries to convey? And what do you expect gamers to take away from this at the end of experiencing all these themes?
We do indeed try to target a more adult audience, a more mature audience with the kinds of games we're doing, and we do this by offering them themes, to have our stories focus on themes that you seldom see in video games and you more see in movies or certain books. On the point of a message, yes, certainly. When we ask the question of growing up, what it means to grow up, and what consequences there are to your actions, we expect people to think about it for themselves. When we talk about what it means to be different, Aiden is almost an allegory for, certain people have differences. We all have our abilities or disabilities. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. And so talking about this subject matter should, I hope, make people reflect on their personal experience. And hopefully they'll take away something from this particular story, something that they can use for themselves as a learning.
So on that point of, I suppose, bringing out emotion and using emotion throughout your games, you're using quite well-known actors in this game. How is that a different experience, or how does that change the dynamic of making a game as opposed to, let's say, the regular voice actors that you would employ?
Working with Ellen and Willem has been an incredible experience for the entire team. It was both challenging and exhilarating and extremely frightening. The level of preparation, because they were coming, was very, very high. We knew that we only had them for a certain amount of time, that we had a lot to shoot within that timing. So we needed to be technically prepared. And with the team really well experienced in something that was for us totally new, because it's totally new for anyone. So that was really the challenge. Having them on stage was, immediately when we saw them, the level of talent that they were bringing, the level of involvement that they brought also to the project. We immediately knew that we had something very, very special, which yet again brought another layer of pressure, I guess, because the pressure then was on us, because they had delivered a fantastic experience, a fantastic performance. The challenge was on us to transcribe this into the game as faithfully as possible. So it's an incredible feeling, and I think that players will see it. Players will see the difference between your usual voice actors and this type of complete performance by these highly talented individuals. And I think that there will be a before, beyond, and an after beyond when it comes to characterization in games.
I want to ask you a little bit about the app, because that's perhaps one of the more innovative features of the game. Can you maybe give me a little bit of background as how you came to the decision to utilize this as a gameplay feature?
When Heavy Rain was released, we were quite surprised by the fact that a lot of people came back to us telling us, you know what, it was a fantastic experience, enjoyed it very much, and it was one of the rare games that I could actually share with people who usually don't play games. My wife, my girlfriend, people coming for dinner, and I showed them a game. Usually I'd never showed them a game, and here I could share it with them and show them the Heavy Rain, and you know, and we thought that's very interesting. We want to enable people who usually don't play games. We want to enable them and give them the possibility to jump in, and not only watch passively gamers play the game, but give them really the possibility to hand them over a controller that they can master. And so we started to think about, you know, what devices we could use as the interface, and quite naturally we thought of touch devices. You know, a phone, a tablet. A lot of people do own such a device at home, and so we started to design an interface that an app that would, you know, be easy to use. We created a simplified level of difficulty for these players, and create Beyond Touch.
You alluded to the traditional controller, traditional button controller, as being maybe a barrier for the casual gamer into getting involved in a game like Beyond Two Souls. There are other consoles on the market apart from the PlayStation 3 that perhaps have easier user interfaces built in as their primary controller. What then drove you to go with the PlayStation 3 as your format for this, and then, I suppose, make an attempt to build in that functionality as with touchscreens and Android and iOS devices afterwards?
Well, first of all, I don't think that today there is any universal device that enables both, you know, core gamers and more casual gamers and non-gamers to really enjoy any kind of game. That doesn't simply exist today, unfortunately. And I can't really think of any other console that would have any device that really fits the purpose. And if you're thinking of Kinect, for instance, I don't think that this is ideal so far. So, you know, and having followed the development in particular of the PlayStation 4 and the controller on the PlayStation 4, I know that it's hugely challenging to create a one controller fits all purposes. And this is why I think it's very interesting. That our approach is interesting because you know, we what is important is not so much who creates the device, but you know, how you can interact with it. And so I'm thankful for Sony to having let us bring, you know, third-party devices to the experience so that people can enjoy the game.
And just a few technical questions. Is this app free?
Yeah, the app is free, and is actually releasing, I think, tomorrow already. Yes.
And
so on time for the release.
And will it be available on the PS Vita, or will functionality be involved with PS Vita?
This is something that we've not been asked to do so far, but might, of course, do, because there is indeed a touch application on Vita, so we could very well do it. So for now, the app is going to release on the App Store for iOS and on the Marketplace for Android devices.
Okay, sure. And then I just maybe want to ask you a question about the next generation of games in Quantic Dreams. I mean, we have a very interesting and unique style with games like Heavy Rain and now Beyond Two Souls. Can we expect something similar in the next generation with perhaps development for the PS4?
It's a little bit too early to talk about our next projects on PlayStation 4, but yeah, you know, we've released a first technical prototype called the Sorcerer, and obviously we're starting to work on our next project on PlayStation 4, and we're looking forward to sharing more information in the months and years to come. But yeah, certainly you can expect some innovative experiences from Quantic Dream on the PlayStation 4.
We're sure we can look forward to that. Guillaume, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
So we've all just gotten a hands-on with Beyond Two Souls. It's an absolutely amazing game, and we can't wait to play the full game. The demo for Beyond Two Souls will be released at the end of September on the PlayStation Store.
And Guillaume was an absolute pleasure to deal with and a great guy to interview, so the answers he gave, I know, will whet the appetite of plenty of gamers out there.
Yeah. And I got a hands-on with the demo that I released at the end of this month, and I can tell you now the graphics are beautiful, the gameplay is a lot better than Heavy Rain, a lot more fluid, and yeah, you're going to love the demo, so look forward to playing the game.
Be sure to check us out on PlayStation.net, follow us on Twitter at PlayStationerEU, and on Facebook at /PlayStation.net.